Hello and welcome to ACT Prep. I'm your English teacher, Miss Abear. Yesterday we talked about kind of setting up for the ACT. We talked about the different reporting categories and we just basically touched the surface of the skills that you need in order to be successful. But did you know that there are resources available to help you with support and preparing you for the ACT, even beyond your ACT prep coursework? So we're going to talk about some of those today. So let's dig in and look at what supports and resources are available to you to help you find success. The first thing that you need to know is that practice makes sense. The more times that you can take practice tests, you can really understand what it is specifically that you need more practice on. You can find the things that you are strong in. It helps also prepare you for specific types of questions. It allows you to practice pacing yourself. So practice, practice, practice. You may have a teacher in your classroom, your ACT prep teacher that's in there with you right now may want you to take a practice test every week. You may have one that wants you to take one every other week. It just depends on the teacher that's in your classroom, how often they want you to take a practice test. Maybe it's not the entire 75 questions, maybe it's just one passage at a time, but practice. The more exposure that you have to the various types of questions and that pacing, the more confident you will be when you go into your ACT test. Now, ACT.org has lots of things available for you to help prepare you for the ACT. There is a full-length practice test, including the optional writing test. And just know that I'm not going to go into any of the writing test part. So if that's going to be a separate series, if we even create that at all, because most colleges and universities do not require the writing portion of the test. ACT.org will also provide you with information about the multiple choice and writing sections. It will also give you some test taking strategies and tell you what to expect on test day, because testing for the ACT looks very different from any other test that you have been exposed to for the most part. You know, if you are in a public school, that there are ways that you prepare for those state assessments. There are different things that you need to, you have to leave your backpack somewhere, all of your materials, you've got to have a certain type of computer or device. It's similar but different with ACT. ACT has a set of rules that are important for you to adhere to. And if you don't adhere to their rules, they can kick you out of the test and then you don't get your score. It doesn't matter that you paid for it. It doesn't matter what you think you deserve. If you don't follow their rules, then you will not get a score from the ACT. So go to ACT.org and get familiar with those rules because they're important. Next, at myact.org, you can register for test events. This is the place, so notice it's myact.org, not just act.org. It's different. So you register for tests at myact. You can also prepare for testing. Here is where you will be able to view and send test scores. What does that mean? That means that if you are looking at Holmes Community College, Hines Community College, and East Central Community College, or Coland Community College, if you're looking, wherever it is that you're looking, they're going to ask you to send them your ACT test scores. You cannot take a screenshot on my ACT and send it to them. They want the official score report, and you order those and send those through myact.org. Also, you can explore different colleges and careers based on the scores that you currently have. You can access college planning resources. You can purchase test prep materials. You can access ACT's free test prep materials. And also, now my ACT has those ACT super scores. And what is a super score? So let's talk about that for a second. Every time you take the ACT, you are given a sub-score for each section. And so you have the English, you have the science, you have the reading, and you have the math section of the ACT. So let's say that you take the test today and you score a 17 as your composite score. And then each of your sub-scores, you've got, let's say, a 22 in one, and you've got a 15 in another, but you only score a 12, but then you score a 30. Let's say that you score a 12 in science. When you take the test again, and you can take it as many times as you want, when you take that test again, let's say that your science score jumps up to a 19. Then your composite score for that test may still be low because maybe you didn't do so well on the English part that time. Well, they take the highest scores from each section from each time that you've taken the test, and that is what your super score is. And the teacher that's in the classroom can help you a little bit more with that. And if they can't, they can find more information, or you can look up that information on myact.org, and they will help explain what that super score is and what it looks like and how those colleges and universities use that super score, because not all of them do. Most of them are, I believe most colleges and universities in Mississippi are using the super score now, but they didn't used to, and not all of them across the United States and even the world will use that super score. So keep that in mind and know which ones will use that and which ones will not. All right, in the free section of free resources for ACT.org, you've got, again, that full-length official practice test, and it's only available inside the MyACT account. And here on the screen, you can see how you access those practice tests. Now, where does ACT get these tests that they're doing here, that they're giving you for free? These are what we call retired tests. So there are times where you're not going to take the same test every single time, and you have different versions of tests. So you may be in a classroom taking a test with 35 other people, and in that room, you may actually have 3 different test versions happening at the same time. So the person next to you or across from you may not have the same test that you do. And the test that you have may be the same one that somebody took last month. But Sarah that's sitting to your right may have one that this is the last time that they're going to use that version of the test. So when they retire these tests, some of them will stay on, they'll go to the ACT resources page first, and then eventually it gets released to the public, and you're allowed to see those tests, and sometimes you can even request, there are certain dates where you can request the test that you took, and they will also send you all of the correct responses. That is a good thing to look into. I would research that if you are interested in improving your test score. Another resource, and it's not free, is the official ACT Prep Guide. There are 5 full-length tests in that prep guide. Detailed explanations of why an answer is correct, and it says correct here because there are certain answers in the math section or the science section that are correct. But in the English section, know that we don't talk about correct answers, they're the best answers. But there will be detailed explanations in that official ACT Prep Guide. The ACT Prep Guide is provided by the same organization, the same company that writes your ACT test. And so again, these are those retired tests that have been released for this ACT guide. They're not necessarily released to the full public as free for usually it's still a couple of more years, so that ACT can get you to purchase this prep guide. So know that these tests that you will get in the official ACT Prep Guide, depending on the year, this one that you see in front of you is for the 24-25 year. There are ones from the past years. Know that the ones that from the past years are probably already released as free. So if you're going to buy the ACT official prep guide, I recommend that you buy the most recent version. Otherwise, those other ones you can probably find online for free. So remember what I said my favorite four-letter F word was? Free. And so ACT has what they call a fee waiver program. You can take the ACT for free. Well, certain people can, not everybody. Not everybody needs the ACT for free, but there are some people that do. There are some people that may be less fortunate than you that need they need a little help. And so ACT recognizes that everybody needs an opportunity to take the ACT and find success in college. And so there are certain people who are eligible to receive fee waivers. Now, there's only a certain number that person can get. If they want to take the test every time for, 500 times, they can't do that. They can only get a maximum number of tests, and they have to go through their school counselor. There's a lot of hoops that they have to jump through in order to qualify to take a free ACT. But there are those waivers available. So who is eligible? So you will see it's only available to 11th and 12th graders. So if you were in the 9th, 10th grade, you can't. You have to pay to take it, or you use the free versions, and you never have those official reports until you're in the 11th or 12th grade. You have to be taking the test in the United States, Puerto Rico, and or a U.S. territory. You can't be taking the test in Korea. You can't be taking the test in Japan. You have to be in the United States, Puerto Rico, and or U.S. territories. Now, there are military families that are eligible, but that's going to be that's a whole different program, and that doesn't relate to you in your classroom unless you're in one of those, and whoever's your facilitator is, those military operations people, they know, and so don't worry about that. If that's something that you're qualified for, they'll give you that information. You must also meet at least one of the following other needs. You get free lunch, you're enrolled in a program that's for the economically disadvantaged, if you're in a foster home or considered homeless, or your family receives low-income assistance or lives in subsidized family housing, public housing. So you have to have at least one of those factors in order to qualify for that fee waiver. All right? What is covered in the fee waiver? You get the registration fee, with or without writing. So if you want to do the writing part and you've qualified for a fee waiver, you can do the writing part. If you found out that you qualify for a fee waiver, but the test that you want to take is in the late registration section and is now charging late fees, the fee waiver covers that. You're allowed one report sent to your high school and 6 colleges. So you can choose up to 6 colleges to send that score report to. It will only send it to your high school, the one that you're in. So you don't need more than one there. You get unlimited additional regular score reports, and you have free access to the online prep official self-paced ACT course. So just like that book that's available, ACT provides, it's basically that book available for free on their website if you qualify for a fee waiver. So let's look at what else, kind of some additional things about these fee waivers. Those who are eligible may be able to use up to 4 free waivers. Now, maybe you take it twice in your 11th grade year and twice in your senior year. Maybe you take it all 4 times your junior year, that 11th grade year. That is up to your counselor. Your counselor is given a certain number of free fee waivers, and so you'll need to talk to them. But always, always talk to your school counselor. If you need more information, go to ACT.org. I'm going to take a second before we move on to accommodations. You may be a homeschool kid who's looking at a fee waiver. You may be a private school kid. You may be fall into any number of situations where you may not have a school counselor. ACT provides they employ people that help help you find that eligibility. So if you go to myact.org or just act.org, you can have a conversation. You can do the chat button, or you can ask specifically for that customer service, and they can walk you through whether or not you are eligible if you don't have a school counselor. So don't let that idea of talking to your school counselor hinder you from taking the ACT if you need to. Now let's talk accommodations. So some people need additional accommodations in order to be at the same level that a standard regular education, regular child may or may not need. My child has autism, and so my child needed some additional time on her test. And so those are some of those accommodations. So let's look at what those accommodations or what we do for them. You have to have accommodations that are state and district accommodations. You will know if you've been eligible for accommodations if you have been receiving them through your school. Users must have a documented disability. You can't just show up at the ACT facility and say, I have autism and I need extra time. There are things that have to be done ahead of time. The test coordinator at your school is who will submit that request. Again, if you are not in a school or have a school test coordinator or a school counselor, you can call ACT, call the customer service, and they can help you with that, especially if you have that documented disability. Students who have a disability but not a school plan in place can still apply for accommodations. Just contact the test coordinator at the school. And so maybe you don't need accommodations for other tests, or maybe your school district has determined that you don't meet the qualifications for an IEP or accommodations. If your school has determined that you don't need accommodations for their test, you may still qualify for accommodations on the ACT if you have a documented disability. What does that mean? It means a note from the doctor that says, Susie Q has a documented disability. Susie Q has ADHD and needs extra time because she can't focus. There are lots of documented disabilities, and ACT has a list of all of those documented disabilities and the accommodations that will accompany them. And again, you can go to act.org and find that information. So let's look at who is eligible and that eligibility. So you can get large print. So if you have, have very poor eyesight like I do, you can get a larger print test. You can get extended time. You can also get a sign language interpreter. So if you are hearing impaired, you can get that same sign language interpreter as the person giving the test is reading instructions. Your sign language interpreter would be signing those. If you have a neuropsychological disability, that's one. If you're currently receiving accommodations from an IEP or a 504 plan, you are automatically eligible. So what do those accommodations look like? You can get extended time. You can get assistance marking answers. So for those who are visually impaired, they may need assistance marking their answers because they can't see those little bitty tiny circles. You may be able to bring in a magnifying glass, a large type booklet, a sign language interpreter for spoken instructions, and there are other accommodations that are for special circumstances. Just you can find those out if you need those from your school counselor or your school district test coordinator. All right, so English language learner. So maybe English is not your first language. Well, ACT wants to help you find success. There are certain words that we use in the English language that may not be just, it may not be a word that you're familiar with enough to be able to know what that direct word would be in your native language. And so again, those English language learner supports, you must be enrolled in a school just like you would for any other accommodations, but you must have documentation of one of the following: limited English proficiency, enrolled in an EL program, and you must currently have English language supports at your school. And what do you get? You can get you can bring in a bilingual dictionary. You can have written directions that are translated. You can have extended time, and you can also qualify for small group testing. So those are some of the supports that English language learners can receive. That is all that I have for you today as far as resources and supports and accommodations. If you have additional questions, please do not hesitate to go to act.org or myact.org in order to help you understand what all is available to you and for you to find success on the ACT. Until next time, happy learning.